we just watch a little bit of this. We got the confirmation of RFK. Shout out to RFK. He's going to make America healthy again. Let's go see the beginning of this confirmation.
Without objection. Thank you, Ranking Member Wyden. Mr. Kennedy, in a few moments you will be given the opportunity to make your opening statement and respond to these attacks and other questions that the members of this committee have. I would say that with regard to the attack on Medicaid that we just heard, that was a false attack. It's been proven false overnight. The Medicaid portal is operating efficiently today and was never intended to be shut down.
Would the gentleman yield, since he's mentioned my name? There was a significant amount of time yesterday where there was bedlam across the country over the status of the Medicaid portals. I hope it's being corrected, but there were problems all through the day.
There certainly were attacks yesterday. The problem has been clarified and the Medicaid portal is fully operational as we speak. Mr. Kennedy, before I turn the time over to you to share your opening statement, I would like to give you a brief introduction. The son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of President John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been an advocate for consumers since 1985. After graduating from Harvard University, Mr. Kennedy studied at the London School of Economics and received his law degree from the University of Virginia Law School and a master's degree in environmental law from Pace University. He has founded 2 advocacy groups and has spent the last 40 years working to restore and protect children's health. He was a former independent candidate in the 2024 presidential election, and President Trump nominated him this year to be in November of 2024 to be the HHS secretary. In announcing his nomination, President Trump stated, "Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency and end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again." Before you give your opening statement, Mr. Kennedy, I have 4 obligatory questions that we ask all nominees before this committee. First, is there anything that you are aware of in your background that might present a conflict of interest with the duties of the office to which you have been nominated?
All right. No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you know of any reason, personal or otherwise, that would in any way prevent you from fully and honorably discharging the responsibilities of the office to which you have been nominated?
No, I do not.
Do you agree without reservation to respond to any reasonable summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you are confirmed?
Yes, I do.
And finally, do you commit to providing a prompt response in writing to any questions addressed to you by any senator of this committee?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And before you begin, if you would like to, you may introduce your wife and children.
Yes. My wife, Cheryl Hines, is here. My daughter, Kit Kennedy, my son, Bobby Kennedy, his wife, Amaryllis Fox Kennedy, and my nephew, Jackson Hines, is here, too.
We welcome you all. Thank you. You may proceed with your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Crapo, Ranking Member Wyden, and members of this distinguished committee, I'm humbled to be sitting here today as President Trump's nominee to oversee the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank President Trump for entrusting me to deliver on his promise to make America healthy again. I also want to thank Cheryl and Kik and Bobby and all of my other children who are here today and all the many members of my large extended family for the love that they have so generously shared. Ours has always been a family that has been involved in public service, and I look forward to continuing that tradition. My journey into the issue of health began with my career as an environmental attorney, working with hunters and fishermen and mothers in the small town in the Hudson Valley and along the Hudson River, I learned very early on that human health and environmental injuries are intertwined. The same chemicals that kill fish make people sick also. Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma, ADHD, depression, addiction, and a host of other physical and mental health conditions are all on the rise, some of them exponentially. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation, yet we spend more on health care, at least double, and in some cases triple, as other countries. Last year, we spent $4.8 trillion, not counting the indirect costs of missed work. That's almost a fifth of GDP. It's tantamount to a 20% tax on the entire economy. No wonder America has trouble competing with countries that pay a third of what we do for health and have better outcomes and a healthier workforce. But I don't want to make this too much about money. It's the human tragedy that moves us to care. President Trump has promised to restore America's global strength and to restore the American dream, but he understands we can't be a strong nation when our people are so sick. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person has only one.
Here, 2 Live now.
Today, over half of our countrymen and women are chronically ill. When I met with President Trump last summer, I discovered that he is more than just concern for this tragic situation, but genuine care. President Trump is committed to restoring the American dream, and 77 million Americans delivered a mandate to him to do just that, due in part to the embrace and elevation of the Make America Healthy Again movement. This movement, led largely by Maha moms from every state, you can see many of them behind us today, and in the hallways and in the lobbies, is one of the most transcendent and powerful movements I've ever seen. I promise President Trump that if confirmed, I will do everything in my power to put the health of Americans back on track. And I've been greatly heartened to discover a deep level of care among members of this committee, too, both Democrats and Republicans. I came away from our conversations confident that we can put aside our divisions for the sake of a healthier America. For a long time, the nation has been locked in a divisive healthcare debate about who pays. Well, when healthcare costs reach 20%, there are no good options, only bad ones. Shifting the burden around between government and corporations and insurers and providers and families is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Our country will sink beneath a sea of desperation and debt if we don't change the course and ask why are healthcare costs so high in the first place. The obvious answer is chronic disease. The CDC says 90% of healthcare spending goes toward managing chronic disease, which hits lower income Americans the hardest. The president's pledge is not to make some Americans healthy again, but to make all of our people healthy again. There is no single culprit in chronic disease. Much as I have criticized certain industries and agencies, President Trump and I understand that most of their scientists and experts genuinely care about American health. Therefore, we will bring together all stakeholders in pursuit of this unifying goal. Before I conclude, I want to make sure the committee is clear about a few things. News reports have claimed that I am anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
Ms. Lee is interrupting RFK's confirmation speech.
We'll have order. Please proceed, Mr. Kennedy.
I am pro-safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about
Get
the
that lady out of
mercury
here.
and toxic chemicals in fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated. I've written many books on vaccines. My first book in 2014, the first line of it is, I am not anti-vaccine, and the last line is, I am not anti-vaccine. Nor am I the enemy of food producers. American farms are the bedrock of our culture, of our politics, of our national security. I was a 4-H kid, and I spent my summer working on ranches. I went to work with our farmers. I want to work with our farmers and food producers to remove burdensome regulations and unleash American ingenuity. MAHA simply cannot succeed without a partnership, a full partnership of American farmers. In my advocacy, I've often disturbed the status quo by asking uncomfortable questions. Well, I'm not going to apologize for that. We have massive health problems in this country that we must face honestly.
Right.
And the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is to get on my knees and pray to God that he would put me in a position to end the chronic disease epidemic and to help America's children.
Love that.
That's why I'm so grateful to President Trump for the opportunity to sit before you today and seek your support and partnership in this endeavor. I will conclude with a promise. The members of this committee, to the president, and to all the tens of millions of parents across America, especially the moms, who have propelled this issue to center stage. Should I be so privileged as to be confirmed, we will make sure our tax dollars support healthy foods. We will scrutinize the chemical additives in our food supply. We will remove financial conflicts of interest from our agencies. We will create an honest, unbiased, gold standard science at HHS, accountable to the president, to Congress, and to the American people.
Love that.
We will reverse the chronic disease epidemic and put the nation back on the road to good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
So I don't know too much about like health and stuff, but obviously you run, you eat well, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you have protected sex, and you have good thoughts. You tend to be somewhat healthy. You tend to have somewhat of a healthy life, and you tend to, if you make the right choices on top of all that, you'll end up dying at an old age comfortably, right? I mean, this guy right here is an older guy. I forgot how old RFK is, but my man, he's got the muscles through the freaking through the three-piece like suit. This guy, I feel like, knows what being healthy is about. I mean, that's just me personally. I'm gonna he's not perfect, and he doesn't know everything. No one knows everything, and you have to, everyone could be held, everyone can undergo criticism, you know what I mean? But I feel like this guy, he's onto something. He knows a lot about health, probably more than some of these other folks who probably never picked up a weight. They've never walked. They've never ran on their own time. They've never thought about eating healthy, any of that. A lot of those folks are the first ones to always combat this guy and what he has to say. Now, when it comes to the vaccine and stuff like that, that's a whole other subject. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I can't really speak on that stuff. But he just said it. His family is vaccinated and stuff like that. He has a book that says that the first line and the last line, I'm not anti-vax, or I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I mean, but obviously folks aren't going to listen to that, and they're going to think whatever that they're going to think. I think the guy is qualified for this job, and it seemed like he was confirmed today. I can't wait to see where this goes for this gentleman here.
2015, it was from the measles vaccine. That's what the New Zealand General Hospital found. The government of Samoa banned the measles vaccine after the 2018. I arrived in July of the next year after the ban had been in place for a year.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
the measles,
understanding that you wanted to hold this to a minute and that I don't get to present all the facts and documentation I've got, how about if we just decide to make entries for the record on exactly what the record shows about Mr. Kennedy's participation? And I think he's answered the yes or no question. He takes no responsibility.
Senator Warren, we will do that.
differently.
And Mr. Kennedy, and to all the senators, every senator knows that following this hearing, they will be able to ask you questions off the record, and you will be able to put answers back onto the record. So please give that answer. I apologize that we're shutting you off for giving a full response right now. Senator Smith, and we are way over time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Kennedy, you have said that you want to give infectious diseases a break for about 8 years. You spoke about this with Senator Cantwell. My question to you has to do with avian flu. Over 100 million birds culled. The disease has spread to dairy cows, and there are now
It's getting
67
crazy.
confirmed human cases and 1 death. So, Mr. Kennedy, do you intend to give research on bird flu a break?
This is
I intend to devote the appropriate resources to preventing pandemics. That's an essential part of my job.
What do you think is causing the avian influenza?
That's a great question.
I think the H5N1 virus is.
So that's good to
Bird flu.
hear, because in a recent book, I will submit this for the record because we don't have that much time, Mr. Kennedy has questioned the scientific basis for germs causing disease and the power of vaccines and antibiotics. to
I've
help
never
cure
questioned
disease.
that, Senator.
Well, I will submit that for the record.
Thank you. Senator Warnock, 1 minute.
I like the way you said that to the Baptist preacher. Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. Based on our conversations, it's my understanding that you support work requirements in Medicaid. In 2020, President Trump approved a proposal from Georgia state leaders requiring Georgians to jump through a number of onerous bureaucratic hoops and fill out even more paperwork to verify work and get access to health care. I ask this as someone who represents a state that has not expanded Medicaid. The federal government, because of this waiver, spent $70 million on Georgia's Medicaid waiver. 82% of that went to administrative costs. The point that I'm making is that the folks that they're
82%.
insisting
That's
need to
crazy.
work, 90% of those folks are working, they are caregivers, or they have a disability. Let me give you one example. A woman I think of all the time, her name is Heather. She's a traveling nurse from Dalton, Georgia, who falls into the Medicaid coverage gap. Heather experienced a series of small strokes, leaving her unable to work full-time. She's dedicated her life to caring for patients, but now she can't afford her own medical care, out-of-pocket costs, because she doesn't make enough to qualify for tax credits to buy private insurance. What does Heather need? Does she need work requirements, or does she need access to health care so she can finally get healthy and get back to work?
The individual that you described would need health care and not a work requirement.
Healthcare,
you.
not a work requirement. Interesting.
Thank you. And we are done with the questioning now, Mr. Kennedy. I apologize to you, to the audience, and to all of my colleagues to have to rush it here at the end, but we have a vote on the Senate floor that they're going to close in about 3 minutes. I want to thank you for appearing before this committee. You have been accessible to the members and staff on both sides of the aisle of the Finance Committee throughout a rigorous process, and I want the whole world to know that you spent hours in meetings
Prepping.
answering questions outside of this hearing and providing documents and responses on issue after issue after issue. You've gone through the most thorough vetting process that any committee in this Congress puts anybody through.
That's crazy.
And I think that you have come through well and deserve to be confirmed. I would like to remind my colleagues that the deadline for submitting any questions for the record is 5 p.m. today, 5 p.m. today. And Mr. Kennedy, we ask that you respond to those questions as quickly as you possibly can. With that, I'm going to leave you in this room and run over to vote. This hearing will be adjourned. I still encourage the audience to be polite and respectful, no matter what side of the issues you may be on.
Right.
And Mr. Kennedy, I look forward to working with you.
Nice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're adjourned.
Nice. Shout to Bobby Kennedy. Shout to RFK. Confirmed. Gonna make America healthy again. I'm super excited. It's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. If you enjoyed this broadcast of Donald Trump signing the Laken Riley Act and also just a little bit of the beginning and ending of RFK Jr.'s confirmation, please consider hitting the like, share, and the subscribe button. I would deeply appreciate it. I'm sorry we couldn't cover the whole confirmation. I was unavailable to do the stream to do so I apologize, because if anybody knows, we've been trying to do some of these broadcasts, and we seem to bring in a lot of good folks with a lot of different backgrounds and mindsets, and it's always good to hang out and go check some of this stuff out with the folks. Anyway, so yes, it's your boy Kicking It with Timmy B. Hit me up on Twitch and YouTube at Kicking It with Timmy B, and then also X at KIWTB Gaming. Shout out to RFK on his confirmation, and shout out to Laken Riley. My rest in peace to Laken Riley, and my prayers go out to her family. It was very tragic. Very tragic. Very tragic. I'm glad that President Donald Trump was able to get a law passed in her name, in her honor, to keep America safe.